Hello, I am Courtney, and I'm so excited to be able to share this information with you. This is my third attempt on doing this. It seems I'm a little long-winded, but anyways, that's probably because this topic, fostering individuality and a sense of community in the classroom, is something that I am so passionate about. Specifically because it seems that as I am delving more into this topic, I have a lot of prior knowledge and prior experience to this, and so I was absolutely thrilled to make the connections from my personal experience with some really powerful examples found throughout this book, but then also with some great research found online that I have included in my presentation today. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you hear pitter patter, please ignore that. That is my 17-year-old poodle. She's just walking around. But anyways, fostering individuality and a sense of community in the classroom. Let's start by first looking at the individuality in the classroom and what are some benefits of fostering this. Well, when educators take into account not only the psychological and the cognitive differences of the students, they're empowering the child, okay? This is especially true for those culturally and linguistically diverse students. So it's helpful for all the students, but in particular, the teachers of the CLD students, they really want to pay careful attention to this, as they're going to constantly be striving to bridge that communication gap that they may have and help strengthen those channels of communication. The considerations that these teachers take and the subsequent differentiation that they may choose to implement in their classroom is going to provide for optimum situations of growth so that the student can positively internalize their struggles and their validations that they have for their achievements, and then in turn view themselves in a positive light. So, for instance, if a child that is having difficulty speaking English, if you have a teacher that is going to really focus on that one student just to help kind of pull them out of their shell and let them know, hey, you have a voice, here's your platform to shine, then that student is going to just grow by leaps and bounds, not just socially, but also academically as well, because they're going to have more confidence in their selves and their abilities of what they're doing. And again, that's true for all students, but particularly with the lens of the linguistically and culturally diverse students. So for instance, an All About Me page, that's a great way to show individuality in the classroom. By the way, that was my cute little nephew when he was little. So what might it look like in a classroom? Well, the teachers can make considerations to the student through flexible and differentiated methods. So that's going to be your learning environments, instruction, and assessments to best meet the needs of all the students. So let's first talk a little about meeting those CLD students on their own level for assessment. So the research has shown us that oftentimes those assessments are underrepresented towards high achieving linguistically and linguistically and culturally different groups, because they don't always account for the ability to demonstrate the skills in a context that is meaningful to that student. So as educators, we can use performance assessments that are designed to involve little or no language and instead draw upon the student's proficiency in perceiving, manipulating, or analyzing information and create products with forms and shapes rather than with words and numbers. So that's going to be a more meaningful and impactful way for the student to express what they know to the teacher, so the teacher can have a better gauge truly of what the child is understanding. And again, how powerful is it for that student to be able to actually express their ideas, what they're trying to say. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about a flipped classroom. So this is a great way that you can foster individuality for your students in the classroom. So we all know about flipped classrooms. They've emerged more in the last decade. It focuses on learning as being more active, and it enhances the learning performance of the students' motivation and engagement. And to be quite honest with you, I was not familiar with this idea until the Price School of Education, and now I'm slowly learning more about this concept, and I'm really intrigued by it. It's something that I would love to utilize in my own classroom, hopefully in the future. And you can use these with all different all ages of students. I feel like it might lend itself a little bit better to older students. However, you can definitely tailor anything for any grade level, ability level, or subject. And we all know that before class, the students are preparing, they're participating in activities, getting them ready for class. Then when they get into the class, those students are actually practicing and applying what they have learned on their own, the concept, and they're getting the feedback from their instructor, but then also from their peers. It's important to get peer feedback. Then they go back home outside of class, and they're going to check for their understanding and extend their learning. They're going to extend their learning knowledge. Sorry, I was trying to make sure I didn't click out of that. So yeah, I think flipped classrooms are great. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit more about fostering individuality in a student, and how can you do that without talking about Howard Gardner. And I do want to read this quote in its entirety because I think it is very impactful. It is of the utmost importance that we recognize and nurture all of the varied human intelligences and all of the combinations of intelligences. We are all so different, largely because we have different combinations of intelligences. If we recognize this, I think we will have at least a better chance of dealing appropriately with the many problems that we face in the world. This last part cannot be understated enough. So Howard Gardner is talking about how he believes that students, there are 8 intelligences. Stand by, there might be a 9th that he's thinking about adding, or that they've been thinking about adding to it. But and I love it because it's true. I feel like I don't just learn best one way. I feel like I take bits and pieces, and sometimes, depending on my mood, I might be more spatial, have more spatial intelligence, more picture smart, and then sometimes maybe I might have more musicality, more music smarts. So I think it's completely true and accurate that if we as adults operate like this, then do we not think that our students would also best operate like this? I think so, yes. And again, when we can recognize that individuality and not just acknowledge it, but also encourage it and celebrate it, I think it is going to really empower the students, just really set them up for the best kind of success. And as I'm moving on, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I feel like we're all pretty familiar with it, but these cards just go through the different types of intelligence. Linguistic intelligence, so using words effectively. That's going to be your stories, your storytellers, your politicians, your orators. So then we have our mathematical, logical intelligence. That's going to be right here, your number smart. So that's people that can use numbers effectively. Then we've got our spatial intelligence, your picture smart. Bodily kinesthetic, so your body smarts. Are you an expert in expressing ideas and feelings with your whole body? So are you an actor? Can you interpret something and move your body to it? Something that I think, when I tend to think of this, I think of the arts. So like a sculptor, a dancer, an actor. But interestingly enough, they include mechanic and surgeon. And I think that's completely justified in that response, because they're taking a skill, their knowledge, and they are manually manipulating it. A surgeon with a scalpel, or a mechanic with his wrench. I mean, he's creating something with their body. So I love that idea. Musical intelligence. So anything with musicality. Do you learn better through a song? Making up a song to help remind yourself of the parts of a plant structure, the plant cell structure. That's what I did when I was in second grade. It helped. Your interpersonal intelligence, so the ability to perceive and distinguish among your moods and intentions. Intrapersonal, this is important because the distinction between interpersonal and intrapersonal. Intrapersonal is self-smart, so this is being aware of yourself, your inner moods, intentions, motivations, and then of course the naturalist intelligence, and that's going to be your nature smart. And I got all of this wonderful information from an article that was focusing on Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence, and then I did link to this quiz. I just thought it was something really fun. If you have time, check it out. Maybe you have an idea of what you think what your intelligence might be. I think this is appropriate for high schoolers to take, as well as middle schoolers, maybe some upper elementary school, but I probably wouldn't give it to elementary students. But during your free time, do you like to paint, figure out complex problems, listen to music, meditate, that sort of things? And then based off of your answers, it's going to pigeonhole you into one of the multiple intelligence. For instance, when I took it, it said that I was an interpersonal intelligence, so people smart. I tend to think that is true. Oh, hold on, wait, my computer's dying. I tend to think that is true because I do focus a lot on people's relationships and interactions with them and really getting to know them on a better level. But again, something that I think is important to note that and Gardner even tells us it's a combination. So while that test said I was an interpersonal, I also feel that I have a lot of musical intelligence and also some spatial intelligence. So I feel like I'm a good balance of all three of those. And I love this graphic. I'm going to click on it to make it a little bigger. This is a fun poster I would utilize actually in the classroom, just so students could kind of picture and see, hey, maybe I work better with music, so I have music smarts, or maybe I'm really good with numbers, so I am a logical, mathematical logic smart. I think it's great so students can see and try to decipher their own learning style so they can best utilize that information to what works for them. And again, I think it's helpful as an adult to know, so why would it not be helpful for your students to know? I kind of feel like that's a no-brainer, but I could see the struggle trying to incorporate it into your already hectic classroom schedule. But again, if we really want to talk about being an effective educator and tailoring our classes to help foster that sense of individuality in our students, how can we not utilize this to some degree, right? So next, I want to quickly move on to fostering a sense of community in the classroom. Again, a lot of this, it goes without saying, it's going to foster engagement, positive mindset and emotions. Mental health is so important. It's particularly helpful for students right now, more than ever probably, that are coping with COVID-19 pandemic, that are either in school, outside of school, online, part-time. I mean, just all different kinds of situations. It is so important to have that sense of community in the classroom, that you feel like you belong as a student. It's going to promote those altruistic feelings towards your peers. You're invested in the success of your friends in your classroom, your peers, and they're invested in your success as well, which is something truly beautiful to see in the classroom, of course. Now, what might that look like? In classrooms, practicing gratitude, sharing goals in the classroom. So for gratitude in the classroom, this is actually an exercise we did with our students right before we left. It's a Kahoot, actually, and we know and love those. So real quickly, it's just a quick little quiz they can interact with a poll. What are you thankful and grateful for? What does the word Thanksgiving mean to you? What does it mean to you? So they're having to think for themselves, internalize their response, and then they're sharing, as a class through this Kahoot to the community of the class, and they're able to compare to their peers. I love this. image, where did it go? What do you think Mickey might be thankful for in this image? Food? Yeah. Friendship? Yeah. Maybe both? Yeah. So it's just really neat. You get great insight into your students as to what they internalize gratitude as. And I love trying to relate it to topics that we're talking about. And of course, we were talking about Thanksgiving right before we left for break. So I love that. Also, shared goals in the classroom. So for younger students, that might look like, hey guys, we're all working towards learning our letters and our letter sounds. So for whenever everybody achieves that one goal, we all get a scoop on our ice cream cone. It's a bulletin board. And when everybody has all their scoops for their letters and letter sounds, then we can all win an ice cream party. Won't that be awesome and great? And the students, obviously, they want to work towards an ice cream party and they want to get all their scoops, but you would be surprised how invested they become in the success of their friends. Like, for instance, when I was adding the scoops last week, one child had already had all their scoops, but every time a scoop was, yay, you did it, I'm so proud of you. I mean, it is just truly heartwarming to see those students, how much they care about the success of their friends. Again, they're building that sense of community in the classroom. We can't talk about community in the classroom without talking about positive psychology, and that's the study of well-being. It's including the 5 essential elements, PERMA, as they're known: positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments. That kind of seems like it's back to basic stuff, but really, if you think about it, of course you want to utilize all 5 of those aspects in your classroom. And if you have all of them in your classroom, then how could you not? How could you not have a sense of community in your classroom? That goes for older and younger kids as well. Now let's take a closer look at the combined results. So these are going to be your examples of fostering individuality and a sense of community in a real-world classroom. Okay, so welcome to Ms. Belcher's class. So in my previous classes that I've taught, I have focused on cultivating a rich classroom environment that is conducive to learning and also creates a climate of love and support that fosters individuality and a sense of community. So those 2 words are in bold because individuality and a sense of community, that's what this whole presentation is about. But guess what? It's things that we do as educators already, putting them into practice, which again is why I was thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to present onto this, because like I said, it's near and dear to my heart. It's something that I have been utilizing in my classrooms in the past already when I taught pre-K, and then now as I'm working as a kindergarten para, I am just thrilled to be able to learn more about it, and then also to consider some other instances of how these real-world examples might look like to promote these ideas, and then also to discuss the beneficial results with you. So I made this acronym up. Excuse me. I love it. It's called ABCs. Now, again, I feel like this is back to basic knowledge. It's kind of common sense, but it's something that I felt like was important that I wanted to share with you. So, again, I made it up, and it stands for acknowledge our differences, build mutual trust, celebrate each other, and share mutual interest and common goals. These are just things that I try to, as a teacher, as an educator, I try to implement these into all practices of my past classrooms, and then also, in my future classrooms, and real life is happening right now. Excuse me. It's something that I think is important, that I've implemented in the past, and I would like to continue doing it in the future as well. So, how can we achieve our ABCs, everybody? Well, let me just help you out. So we're going to establish daily rituals and routines, from morning meeting to handshake, high five, or hug. So from the instant they walk in the door, they know what to expect. We always start by doing our morning work. The morning work changes every day, but they always know to expect a morning work, right? When the bell rings, we go to the rug, we do our morning meeting, okay? That never changes. Again, the content might slightly change, but those rituals and those routines stay the same. For instance, this is one of our favorite good morning songs we love to do. My students love this. They've loved it. And I think because it's just fun, it's catchy. Morning, I clap my hands in the morning. I do my dance in the morning. I shout, hooray! This is gonna be a wonderful day. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, and how are you? Early in the morning. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop myself now because I love that song. That's just one of our many good morning songs. And it's fun for me, and I truly believe that, there we go. I truly believe that if you are having fun, don't look at that. I don't know what happened, sorry. If you are having fun, then the students are going to have fun, right? So I love doing just fun songs like that that help kind of get everybody focused in on the rest of our day and what we're going to do. And then at the end of the day, of course, we do our closing. Sometimes we'll do a song, a chant, but we always end with our handshake, high five, or hug as they're going out the door. And it looks a little different these days because of COVID, so we do a lot of elbow. But if you forget it, they will remind you. They will remind you for sure. So next, I always say, in order to have a friend, you have to be a friend. And that's going to go back to acknowledging our differences. Maybe we are different, and that's okay. But if you want to have a friend, you have to be a friend, and that's going to help build that mutual trust, right? That's a picture of my boys building mutual trust. So in the past, I've encourage the children to choose the rules for the class. I do try to help guide them into an avenue that I think is kind of more appropriate. But these are some rules that when I taught Georgia Pre-K that we utilized. And the kindergarten rules look a little different, but I mean, the concept is, the premise is still the same. So quiet lips. You're not talking while the teacher's talking. That's a sign of respect, and we all have a mutual interest in a common goal, right? We're trying to listen, we're trying to learn. Listening ears, there you go. And gentle hands, so we're not hitting our friends, we're not being destructive to our school materials, and we're using our walking feet. We don't run in the hallways, we don't run inside the building. That's also a safety issue. But when we can all follow these rules, we all have common goals, mutual interest, and we're building that trust in the classroom because we can trust each other that we're all going to use gentle hands. So I can play with my friend over there and not worry about having a toy snatched away from me, right? So that's important. I love to do talent shows whenever we have a little spot of time that maybe we've been working really, really hard, and maybe it's like 7 or 8 minutes before we go to recess, and we've already read a book, and like I said, we've been working really hard, so maybe we just need a brain break. So I love to do talent shows as a way, as kind of something different. A lot of the students don't suspect it when I first do it, and they love it. So I'll build a little stage, and whoever wants to participate can. And I say, okay, what's your talent? And you might have a little girl get up and maybe she'll sing a song. Maybe she'll sing the good morning song. Maybe she'll sing her ABCs. Maybe she'll sing the counting by 10 songs. But I guarantee you, whatever song she sings, the next 3 little girls that get up are going to sing the exact same song as their talent. It never fails. But you know what? That's okay, because we are celebrating each other. So we always make sure whenever we're done to say thanks for sharing. Right here, this little boy, we were dancing, and he loves to dance, and he really wanted to dance for everybody, but he only wanted to dance during the talent show. It was like he was almost shy to kind of dance during free time, but it was something he really, really, really wanted to show his peers. So again, we're acknowledging our differences. She might like to sing, he may like to dance, but we're going to make sure that we celebrate each other, and we always encourage each other. We do not make fun of each other. That is a way to build mutual trust. And again, the kids do a really good job with that, and I'm so proud of them for doing that. We want to make sure that we make time for meaningful moments with the students. I love doing these kind of stealing away little moments with students. I did this a little bit before Thanksgiving break. I'm just focusing on those little pockets of times with the students where they don't suspect it, but while we're testing for 2D and 3D shapes, I might say, hey, is there anything you want to talk to me about? Is there something you want to tell me? One little girl told me about a casserole, and I was shocked that she even knew what the word casserole meant, but she was referring to Thanksgiving, and she was really excited about corn casserole. So that was just building that mutual trust between the students, and it really just helps to let them know that, hey, the teacher thought it was that important to take that pocket of time, that moment of time, to focus on me. And it just really helps, again, build that community of in the classroom, and it's just so powerful. And that's just a little meme when you call your teacher mom by accident. That happens a lot. And again, I think it goes back to building that mutual trust. Incorporating what is important to all students through interest inventories. I love interest inventories. For older students, they're so beneficial, but also for younger students, they can definitely participate in them. This is one that I've given my students before in the past. What do you like to do at recess? Play on the playground, play with balls, frisbee. What do you like to do at home? Watch TV, play outside, draw. It gives some great insight into what their interests are, what motivates them, and then also maybe what is their what's their currency. So how are they going to best learn? How are they going to best respond to a potential reward that you would like to put in place for the class? So I love those student inventories. It's also a great way for students that are maybe linguistically diverse, that they can interact and just kind of express their feelings as well in a very safe space. Respecting what is socially and culturally unique and celebrating that diversity and celebrating that diversity. So that's going to be culturally, ethnic diversity, linguistic diversity, students that speak different language, American Sign Language. We've had students in the past that sign. So all of this is going to help as a class acknowledge differences, build trust, celebrate each other, and share a mutual interest in goals. Also, geographically, I have students that live on farms, some that live towards the city, maybe in a condo or an apartment. Holidays are different. Food, dance, and dress. I have a few Hispanic children, specifically Mexican children, that are learning to speak Spanish, which is really neat, because I get to practice my conversational Spanish with them. But they dance, they dress differently, they focus a lot on family and the different foods and celebrations that they may have, and then also family structure. At my school, it's a Title I school, and it has the largest homeless population in the county, so we have a lot of displaced children that are considered homeless, that either live in a hotel or are in and out of people's homes, and maybe don't have a mom or a dad or both. Maybe they live with grandma, grandparents, and so it's important to discuss the differences that people have, and let everyone know that we're different, but it's okay, and we can celebrate those differences in a way that is meaningful to the students. So I like this Jack Hartman song. We talk about how families can be different, they can be young and old, and again, I have two students that grandma has custody of them, so that is different than it has been in years past, but this helps normalize it for students and makes the students feel included and a part of our community at the school. Something else that I love, later on in this song, it talks about how families can look different. So this is a football picture. We just recently took class pictures, so I make sure to really hit home to our students that even though you can have a work family, you can have a school family, you can have a sports family, you can have a church family. Families can look different. It's all about caring and loving each other, and again, fostering that sense of community and individuality. So real quick, I do want to be respectful of time, but I thought it was really important that I do bring this up. I do want to show some real world connections. This picture, luckily I had the absolute privilege of partnering with a phenomenal woman who happens to be my best friend, and she taught a group of young girls at a girls' school in East Africa, specifically in Uganda, outside of Kampala, I believe. And this is a picture of them, and we were able to almost kind of have a pen pal program, so we kind of adopted each other's classes, and my students just thought it was just so neat because one time she had sent a video and some images of them dancing. In the video, my students were like jaws dropped. They were floored. They thought it was so neat and just so different. It was nothing that they had ever seen, and at the time these were 5-year-olds watching them dance. So they had never seen this type of traditional dancing from a culture like this, and afterwards they wanted to connect what they had seen to something that was meaningful to them. And at the time I taught Zumba, and so they were familiar doing some Zumba videos, but typically we stick to like Trolls or Justin Timberlake, but I found this Shakira video that they did, and the students loved it because while it was similar to what they were doing, it wasn't the exact movement, but that very jerky precision, that methodical beat with the music, it reminded them of what the girls in Uganda were doing. And it was just so neat because my students were able to utilize different learning styles. They made those cross-cultural connections, and again, there was a sense of community because everyone in the class was invested in this. They were dancing together, they were learning about different cultures, and they were happy to share their culture with the students in Uganda as well. So I just thought that was just so neat and powerful because not only did my kids enjoy doing this new dance style to different music, but it helped cultivate a greater awareness of diversity, not just in their classroom, but outside. And they had more meaningful connections. And again, that's not something that you're going to see in Bartow County. And a couple of years later, she was fortunate enough to teach in Myanmar, formerly Burma, and she taught with a little bit younger children, which were more in age with my students, and so we did the same sort of thing. And it was just really neat because my students, when they were flipping through the pictures in the slideshow, they saw, hey, I dress up as Spider-Man too, so they're making those cross-culture connections, and they're internalizing it to themselves, so they're able to have their own sense of individuality, but then also a sense of community, not just in their classroom, but then as a classroom, really on a worldwide scale. And so I just absolutely love this. They're bobbing for apples here. A lot of my students had done that with their church groups at harvest time. And here they're celebrating a birthday. A lot of my kids say, hey, we wear birthday hats too on our birthday. And so it's just a great learning experience all. Here they're making sushi. What's funny enough is my students have never made sushi, but a lot of them had had sushi with their moms, which I love sushi. And so they really identified with that. So they were able to and then here, Brittany was explaining to me that this was just, they were kind of having a rough day, so she said, hey, let's do some arts and crafts and express yourself. And that's something that we do in kindergarten. a lot to express yourself through feelings when we do our feelings unit. And so that sort of individuality that the students were doing in Myanmar, my students were able to make those connections and internalize that, and therefore help themselves grow in their learning experience. And again, these are just some real world instances that actually happened in some previous classes of mine that I did want to share, because I do think it's pertinent to the information that I'm discussing now. So with that, I do want to leave you, being respectful of time, with this quote: when students see other cultures and different views of what a classroom community can look like, it helps to strengthen their ideal and understanding of what their own classroom can be. So again, here's another beautiful picture of Uganda. And in a way, the most successful method that students can contribute to this idea is by being their own individual self. And that's something that I said. I just made it up. It was just kind of heavy on my heart as I was writing this, and I did want to include something because I do truly believe this, and maybe it was me growing up watching too much Mr. Rogers, but I truly do feel that each child is special, each child is different, each child is unique, and those differences should be celebrated, they should be cultivated, and they should be cherished, because then it just helps add to a sense of community to the classroom physically, but then also the classroom outside in the environment, and then that way it will help produce better citizens of the community and in turn the world. And then these are some references that I used. I will make sure that I also link this so you can feel free to go through and explore any of them that you wish. But thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed. This is a little bit of a non-traditional method as opposed to a PowerPoint, but again, I'm a visual learner, and I wanted to express some ideas in a way that was meaningful to me to help express the topic, which was fostering the individuality and a sense of community in the classroom. And I hope you got that from this presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Bye.